and welcome to another episode of The Word for Kids. I'm Jaymie.
And I'm Josh.
And we're guiding you through the book of Matthew in a series of 20 episodes. Last time, we learned about the first Palm Sunday. Jesus came into Jerusalem riding on a donkey. A large crowd gathered and spread their cloaks on the road. Some people cut branches and spread them on the road too. They shouted, "Hosanna to the Son of David! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest heaven."
Then Jesus entered the temple's courts and drove out all the people who were buying and selling things there. He overturned tables of the money changers and the benches of the people selling doves and yelled, "My house will be called a house of prayer, but you are making it a den of robbers." Children continued to shout, "Hosanna to the Son of David." The chief priests and teachers of the law were angry about it, but Jesus reminded them what was written. From the lips of children and infants, you, Lord, have called forth your praise.
Later, the Pharisees tried to test Jesus. They sent an expert in the law to ask Jesus, which is the greatest commandment? But he answered, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself." Jesus told them that all of the laws really came back to these two simple commandments. Simply love God and love others. And that's where we left off last time. Are you ready for today's adventure? Let's go.
In this passage, Jesus has already begun talking to his disciples about how he would soon be going to his Father in heaven, but that he would come back again someday. The disciples asked Jesus when he would come back, and here is part of his response. About the day or hour, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven or the Son, but only the Father. He went on to remind them what happened during the days of Noah. Remember, we learned about the story of Noah and the ark way back in Genesis. Before the flood, the people were just going about their normal days, eating, drinking, and getting married. They didn't know about what would happen until the flood came and took them away. Jesus compared that to the second coming of the Son of Man. The Son of Man is another name for Jesus. He said, 2 men will be in a field. One will be taken and the other left. Therefore, keep watch, because you do not know on what day the Lord will come.
We've been talking about a lot of the parables Jesus told. Here is another one. This one is called the Parable of the 10 Virgins. It's a story about 10 young women who were not married yet. Part of their responsibility was to walk with the bridegroom from the bride's house to his house, where there would be a big wedding banquet. Their lamps provided light, as this took place in the evening. A bridegroom is just another way to say groom or new husband. Okay, so Jesus said, "The kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish, and 5 were wise. The foolish ones took their lamps, but did not take any oil. Oil was needed to keep the lamps burning. The wise ones, however, took oil in jars along with their lamps."
It took the groom a long time to arrive, and all of the women became drowsy or sleepy and fell asleep. At midnight, the cry rang out, "Here's the bridegroom! Come out to meet him!" Then all the virgins woke up and trimmed their lamps. The foolish ones said to the wise ones, "Give us some of your oil. Our lamps are going out." But the wise ones replied, "No, there may not be enough for both us and you. Go to those who sell oil and buy some for yourselves." But while they were on their way to buy the oil, the bridegroom did arrive, and only the 5 wise virgins who were there and ready got to go with him to the wedding banquet. The door was shut behind them. Later the others also came. "Lord, Lord, open up the door for us." But he replied, "Truly I tell you, I don't know you."
Just as he had said earlier, Jesus again reminded the disciples and ultimately us to keep watch because we don't know the day or the hour the Son will return. You see, this story is a great example of our wait for Jesus to come back. Those of us who know and trust him are ready and waiting for Jesus to return, and we're like the wise women in the story. But those who don't know him are not prepared for his return and are like the foolish women in the story. When he comes back, he's taking those who have put their trust in him to heaven, just like the groom took the wise virgins to the wedding banquet in the story. For those who don't know Jesus, it will be too late, and they will be turned away, just like the foolish virgins were in this story.
Jesus told another parable, this one called the parable of the bags of gold. He said the kingdom of heaven will be like a man going on a journey, who called his servants and entrusted his wealth to them. To one he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2 bags, and to another 1 bag, each according to his ability. The man who had received 5 bags of gold put his money to work and gained 5 more bags. The man with 2 bags of gold also gained 2 more. But the man who was given 1 bag dug a hole in the ground and hid the master's money. After a long time, the master returned from his journeys and called for the servants. The first man said, "Master, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold? See, I have gained 5 more." The master replied, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness." Next, the second man said, "Master, you entrusted me with 2 bags of gold. See, I have gained 2 more." The master replied, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness."
Then came the man who had received 1 bag of gold. "Master," he said, "I knew that you're a hard man, so I was afraid and I hid your gold in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you." His master replied, "You wicked, lazy servant. You should have put my money on deposit with the bankers so that when I returned, I would have received it back with interest." The master took the 1 bag of gold from the servant and gave it to the one who already had 10 bags. Then he had that servant thrown outside into the darkness.
This parable represents the gifts God has given each of us. We all may not have the same gifts or the same amount of gifts, but we have the job of using the gifts God has given us to help others come to know and serve God. In this way, our gifts grow, and that's where our story ends for today. It's time for the verse to remember.
Today's verses are Matthew 24:12 and 13. "Because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved." Matthew 24:12 through 13. These passages can be a little scary and confusing as we learn about Jesus coming back to earth and how some will go to heaven at that time and others won't. Ask a trusted parent or leader about things you don't understand. But even though Jesus gave these examples as warnings to be prepared for his return at any time, he didn't mean for us to constantly be living our lives in fear. In fact, one of the most common phrases in the whole Bible is "do not be afraid." When we live our lives trusting in Jesus and serving others, we can be confident that he's always with us while we're here on earth, and one day when we'll get to heaven, we'll get to be with him as well.
To be honest, sometimes it's really hard to wait. And it's really hard to wait when we don't know what's going to happen or when it's going to happen. And so to face the mysteries that Jesus talks about sometimes takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of wisdom. So I'm glad that we have the Bible to guide us, and we have our leaders and our parents and our church to be with us as we wait for Jesus' return.
Well, thanks for joining us, and we can't wait to see you again soon for another episode of The Word for Kids.